about immigrant people arriving in the UK and ways we can come together to oppose the horrible and horrid Nationality and Borders Bill. All African Women's Group is a group made up of women asylum seekers and refugees from different backgrounds and different countries. Some of us arrived recently, some of us have been here for decades. Most of us are mothers with our children here, and some, sadly, we left them behind when we came from, fleeing from war, climate change, and other forms of persecution. Majority of us are victims of domestic violence, rape, and other forms of horrible torture, and some women have been in detention for more than once. We campaign and work on our own cases and each other's legal cases as part of Global Women Against Deportation, based at Crossroads Women's Center, with legal action for women and women against rape and women of color in the Global Women Strike. I will hand you over to Nikki. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lulu. Okay, so this part of the meeting is going to be a Q&A, question and answer session. We have quite a lot of participants on at the moment, and the first section will be an opportunity for women from the All Africa Women's Group and a couple of other named organizations to answer some of the questions that have already come in before we open up to general discussion. So looking at the questions that have come in already, the first one that I think we should go to is the issue that Priti Patel, who is the Home Secretary, who's been leading on this Nationality and Borders Bill, says part of the justification is that she says that the people that are coming to the UK, including by boat, are asylum seekers. So I think there was a couple of people that were interested in answering that. Could I go to Daphne first?
I fled to the UK in fear for my life after suffering terrible violent homophobia in Uganda. I was too traumatized to speak about it when I arrived in the UK, until I met the All African Women's Group and other women who had suffered like me. They encouraged me to report what had happened as grounds for asylum and helped me find a lawyer. It was still very hard, and the group helped me to make sure my evidence was as strong as possible. Even so, when I went to my asylum interview, it was very distressing with the Home Office, asking me really intimate questions. Sorry, guys, I'm still in shock. It didn't even stop them, even when I was upset. I'm sorry.
Take a breather, Daphne. Don't worry. That's fine. I know it's really horrendous how they questioned you. So don't take a breather. Maybe we could go to Flora just for the moment, and we'll come back to you. Just put your hand up if you'd like to come back in, Daphne. Okay, go ahead, Flora.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me this afternoon to speak on very timely topic, very timely issues at the moment. It is sad when you hear people talking, definitely, of your real story that you've gone through, and her experience is just one in a million. So many of our women who come across have explained so much, and myself have gone through the process. And there are a lot of genuine cases that come through the ice cold water. You know, sometimes the painting of the situation is difficult, it is different. painted different to the people. But the government make it so much impossible for the people to even have their freedom to speak. Like Daphne was explaining, the vigorous interviewing of people, questioning so many things that is pertaining to your private life, and things that you will be shocked that they can ask somebody. And we have lots of women in All African Women's Group who have come to the group years and not been able to open up. And we have always been a group that encourage, women to speak out when they feel comfortable. And I'm so happy and grateful that I was invited to speak, because a lot of, as it is making the headlines now in the UK, a lot of genuine asylum seekers are coming through that the government has brought a bill to either try and run the process as fast track as it all started. They've always had it in mind to always make the process difficult and very hard for asylum seekers to claim, or people to actually speak up or encourage them, or even encourage people who are helping the asylum seekers on the seashore to help them to come in. And they are bringing in bills that will make it very tougher and for the public to be so afraid to help. And this is why we want everyone to hear from a lot of women who have gone through the horrendous process of asylum seeking. And when Daphne is ready, I would just love her to continue her experience, because it is an eye-opener for most of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. Okay, I'm going to just hand over to Lulu for a minute, because she has a really important fact that she can share with us, which I think kind of puts light onto this situation.
As you heard from Flora and Daphne, and the situation is really difficult as it is, and even as supposing to speak out. From what you have heard so far, it is really true that from the sisters that many do have grounds for asylum, e.g. like 70% of people coming in small boats are genuine refugees coming from countries like Iraq, Iran, Sudan, and Syria. And they are fleeing from persecution and destitution. And the sea is the only route from France that is available to them.
Yeah, thank you, Lulu.
Over to you, Nikki.
Really good, because the way they speak about the people coming by boats in particular is that they really are very disparaging and rude and about people, and make it sound like people are coming here with no good reason. So it's really good to hear that statistic. Okay, the second question we have is about the people smugglers, because Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, you probably will have all heard, has been responded to the tragic deaths of 27 people in the Channel by saying that what was needed was a greater crackdown on people smugglers. So our next question is, what do people think about the Home Secretary's suggestion to bring in more criminal sanctions against people smugglers? And I had a couple of people that were ready to answer that. One is Anna. So could I ask Anna to speak?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm Anna, and this is my mom sitting next to me. We are both from the All African Women's Group. I just wanted to start by saying that I strongly oppose the anti-refugee bill for many different reasons. And one of them is that I'm a refugee now myself, but under this new bill, I would have never received my refugee status, and I would have been deported as soon as I set foot in the UK. My mum was forced to flee our country of origin, Albania, and she was forced to make a decision because our lives were in danger. And the journey that we made to leave Albania was very dangerous. We nearly died so many times, but she knew very well that we had a better chance of surviving by making that very dangerous journey than still being left in Albania. The very men that Priti Patel is calling the people, so-called people smugglers, helped us make that journey and helped us escape and continue our lives. At one point, we had to cross the border by foot from Albania to Greece, and at one point we had to go through a river. And my brother, who was 11 years old at that time, nearly drowned in that river, and he was saved by those men that Priti Patel is looking to put behind bars. But for people like us, those men, the so-called people smugglers, are our only hope, because there is no other way. There is no safe routes. There is no other way for us to escape and look for safety. Anyway, we started living in Greece. Then our lives became in danger in Greece. Our whereabouts were, the people who were looking for us, they knew where we were. We had to cross so many different European countries. My mom decided to get as far away as possible. She decided to bring us to the UK. We had to go through so many different countries. And under this new bill, for that reason, we would have been deported, or we would have been held in detention if we were to make that journey now and come to the UK after this bill supposedly is in power. We would have put in detention indefinitely or until we were sent back. I just wanted to say that the real problem is not us as asylum seekers coming here to ask for safety, or those who help us along the way to reach a safe place. I think the real problem is this government, because the asylum system is already designed to discourage us to claim asylum. It's designed to fail us, to make our lives very difficult. And this new bill will just destroy us. There is no other way that we can seek safety if this bill is to come to power. I'll just tell you about my case. Like, I'm a refugee now. I can stay here, but it was very difficult for me to get this status. For 10 years, I waited in a limbo I waited to get a decision from the Home Office to decide if I was gonna be allowed to stay in this country or not. For many years, I tried to chase the Home Office through my MP as well. They lied through their teeth to my MP. At one point, they said to my MP that a decision will be made on my case. But the next time they told my MP that I've never made an asylum claim, which left me very vulnerable, because it meant that I could have been detained, I could have been deported. And I just fought with the All African Women's Group behind me. We just fought for me, and I won refugee status. I got compensation from the Home Office, but it was really difficult. And I just feel for all those that come after me, what will happen to them when they try to reach the UK, when they try to get safety.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
I want to just ask, we have a woman on the call who is from Hastings Support Refugees, which is one of the groups that is greeting people who are arriving by boats. And I'd like to just invite Jane just to say a few words about the work that they do and what you think that says about how people feel about, how people, not politicians, feel about people arriving by boats.
Yeah, hi. So we, Hastings is basically almost the last stop on the front line for people arriving in dinghies from northern France. If they basically, as we all know, everybody's trying to make the shortest crossing from Dover, from Calais to Dover. You know, so then they're trying to hit that big sweep of a bay that comes around into Kent, the end of which is Dungeness. If a dinghy passes Dungeness, then it's gone really, really horribly wrong. And the next stop along the line is Hastings. Now, sometimes in the summer, people manage, and it's very calm, people manage to motor all the way over and they land on the beaches near us. But generally, people have been rescued by the RNLI, usually about 11 miles off Dungeness. So in the middle of the shipping channels, it's really horrific. And by that point, you know, it's gone horribly wrong. People have run out of fuel, their outboards have stopped working, they've got caught in currents, you know, whatever. It's bad. So we decided last summer when we actually met, one of our members happened to be on the beach when the RNLI brought in a boat full of refugees to the beach, to one of the beaches in Hastings, and she rang me and said, Jane, you know, there's these people here, we need to help them, they've been at sea for hours and hours, what do we do? So we, you know, leapt into action. We hadn't done this before, and I'd literally just got in from the supermarket, and I kind of swept all of the kids' snacks into a bag and all the drinks I could lay my hands on, legged it down to the beach, and there were just two of us there doing a kind of just a humanitarian distribution. And afterwards, you know, we sat down and we said, okay, we need to do this properly, we need to do this correctly. So we've been building up relationships within Hastings. We've got a really strong team now, a kind of core of about 15 people who we can't ever be officially notified that they're bringing rescuing a boat and bringing it in, but it's very easy to work out. The RNLI launched from the beach in Hastings, in the middle of the old town. So we've got lots of businesses and people spotting for us, but you can see on the RNLI website when they launch, and you can just track things on a shipping app. So we do that, and you can see, you know, you can see, it's quite horrific. You can see all of the lifeboats launching, and you can kind of see them clustered around. You can see Border Force coming in, you can see the search and rescue helicopters coming in, and then you know it's a big one, and you know there's quite a few boats have landed, and some of them may be brought back to Hastings, some of them may be taken on to Eastbourne, some of them may be landed at Dungeness. Sometimes they're then turned around and taken to Dover. Once they land here, we just spring into action, and we can be on the beach in about 20 minutes. So we've got a bit of notice because we're watching what's happening, and once the lifeboat turns around and starts coming back, we know we've got about an hour to get down there. And we've got various businesses in the old town are on board, a couple of pubs and cafes that will just provide hot drinks and food. So as soon as they get the call, they start cooking huge plates of, you know, huge trays and trays of chips that we then distribute, because the thing, you know, people are very cold, very, very scared. And, you know, we had one boat brought in here a couple of weeks ago, and it landed about 6:30 at night. So on the beach, it's dark, everybody's scared. And they'd been at sea for nearly 30 hours, you know, so I cannot even imagine. And we managed to identify 5 unaccompanied minors on that one that were the age of my children. And I just, you know, it's too much. It's very hard to comprehend what our government is doing to people to make a child have to take those choices in life. But we also think that what we're doing on the beach, it has to be humanitarian, it can't be political. So we do all our political stuff away from the beach, but we cannot do it there, because the thing that you have to do is give aid to people. So we've fundraised an enormous amount of money. We've had quite a lot of national press. We've had articles written about us in The Guardian, in Sunday Times. There's been quite a lot of interest from French newspapers in what we're doing. And yeah, lots of people have been incredibly generous, from which point we've managed to kind of stock up. You know, someone delivered 100 blankets to me the other day. I got a box this morning with about 50 pairs of gloves in it. You know, people are just generous. People want to help. And that is my overwhelming feeling on this, is that whether people actually think, you know, yeah, I don't know if I agree with people coming to the UK or not, people do not want to see people dying at sea. That's the bottom line. No one wants to see, or only, you know, a tiny proportion of extremist people want that. Nobody I've spoken to, no feedback I've had from anywhere, does anybody want that to happen. And I defy anybody to be on the beach and talking to someone and not, their gut instinct is to help and to just give humanitarian kindness.
That's great. Thank you, Jane. That's really important. It really mirrors the experience that we've always had in Global Women Against Deportations, that when women from the All Africa Women's Group are able to speak about what's happened to them, that people are massively generous and understanding and compassionate, and really do feel motivated to go out there and fight for a better, a more just system.
She's come back.
Oh, Alima, are you back? Oh, good. If you can speak, Alima, carry on. Have another go. Yes, go ahead, Alima. Great.
So this is the story of a sister from DRC. My son is stuck in Greece. He was too old, like my daughter did. He had to cross the Mediterranean in an inflexible dignity. He didn't tell me this until he got to the Greece, as he didn't want me to worry. He told me there is death everywhere. If I die, at least you will know I died trying to reach you, Mom. I was devastated. Now he's living in the terrible condition in Greece. He has to hide because he has no papers and the police could arrest him. I send money every month to pay his rent. He shares with many others in horrible conditions. He has no choice. He's trying to find legal help to come to the UK, but it is practically impossible. This bill will make it even harder to get family reunion. More people will have to risk their life in dangerous boats and terrible living conditions to join their family members. Thank you.
Thank you, Alima. We are all fighting still for that young man to be able to join his mother. So that's an ongoing situation that we're fighting still. Okay, so next is Lara. Lara, to answer the question about women being elbowed, supposedly women being elbowed out of the way by men arriving by boat, in boats.
Yes, I just wanted to say that this is a false narrative that's been said by the government, by implying that there is space, first of all, and the spaces are being taken by men and they're elbowing women, because they're implying there's a system for women. There's no space, there's no dedicated pathway for women to claim asylum in the UK. You just actually have to fight for it, you know, in the boat. So you have to use whatever means. So it's a false competition. And with this new bill, it's even harder for women and children. Like there's no protected space. There's nothing they're offering women. They're just pointing out how difficult it is for us.
Yes, thank you. That brings us on actually to the question of the government is saying about the safe and legal routes that people should follow if they want to come to the UK. And I think you were going to say something about that.
As I have always said, whenever you are in problems or you have problems yourself, you don't think about taking a Google map to check where you need to go. The first thing you think about is seeking for safety and for your children. And the bill that is Nationality and Borders bill that is going to be, I mean, it's in debate at the moment. It's going to have a huge impact on women and children. And we are already those who are here have experienced the horrible and hostile environment. So it's gonna make it even worse to ask for asylum, and even to say the experience and the problems that have made you to flee in the first place, and to be able to speak about it in the first place. Because navigating this system here already is designed, like somebody mentioned earlier, to deny women any form of protection and help. So it's gonna go beyond what it is at the moment, to killing more people in the Mediterranean, and those who are already here have made it to safety. But there are problems, and the problems that we are faced with the Home Office is tailless. It doesn't have any end, but we must continue to fight.
Could I just say, I think there was a speech in Parliament from Lord Kerr, which was really good. It kind of went viral, and people should really watch it if they get a chance, because he spoke against the Nationality and Asylum Bill, and he basically said, one of the many things he said was that all the official resettlement routes are closed. The Syrian scheme is closed, the scheme that was in place for Syrian people. The scheme for Afghan people, even despite all the media attention and what the politicians have said about the situation of people in Afghanistan, despite all that, there's the actual scheme to allow people to come by a so-called safe and legal route hasn't even opened. And there was one example that he gave, which is that the largest group of people coming by sea are Iranians. That's 300 people from Iran have come by sea, and only one person has been able to come by a so-called safe and legal route. So that just shows you what a scam it is, this whole idea. I don't know if have I got Sylvia on the call who can just say about the visas as well. I can see there's some other questions coming up. I don't know if it's possible for Sylvia to join us.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, go ahead, Sylvia.
Hi. My point on the legal routes is when it comes down to visas, where you have to do your applications, you submit everything and it's correct, and then you're not you're denied the visa, yet you've paid a certain amount of money. Let's say you've paid £300 for a 6-month visa for the UK, because the visa system for the UK is charged for 6 months, a year, different fees, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Yet other countries charge a specific amount overall for the visa fees. And if a British national is going, let's say, to Tanzania, they'll pay maybe $50 at the point of entry as visa fees. So why is it biased on one end? And I can book a flight from here as a British national, go without being bothered. But when I'm trying to come legally, I'm denied that entry route, and hence why people are desperate and end up paying traffickers, because they've tried the legal route, it didn't work. And at the same time, you might be granted the visa, but the point of entry, maybe at Gatwick, you won't be allowed entry. So it's still quite unfair for many, hence why so many people are coming through different routes, using smugglers, the boats, using other people's passports and all that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my last question that we had got in advance that people kind of were trying to deal with and answer is that the question of some of the media for years and years and years actually have been publishing these articles saying that asylum seekers are living in luxury. And that was one thing that women felt very strongly about answering. And I'd like to just ask Trinity to answer that, and then Marianne, and then we'll move on to a couple of other items before we open for the other questions that are coming in. Thank you. Trinity. You're on mute, Trinity.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you so much. When they say that asylum seekers, they live in a luxurious house, that, of course, everybody knows that that is a pure lie. And that is a white lie. I will use myself as an example first. When I was on asylum, the house they put me was very bad. Even my son developed asthma because there was a lot of mold in the house, cockroaches, rats, and ants, you know, even bedbug. If you see my son's body, it was full of beating of bedbug and everything. Even when I rushed my son to hospital, the doctor asked me, when did this asthma started? Because it was so severe. If not that I took my son to hospital, maybe I would have lost that boy by now, because it was very difficult for him to breathe. So this is a lie, and a lot of people are still suffering. And the house they put them is very, very bad. It's terrible. It's very, very terrible. Because myself, as an example, I just said mine. And there's still a lot of women with children suffering the same thing today. You see? So we did a survey about a few months ago, last year. So what we see, the result about destitute, what we see was shocking, very, very shocking. A lot of women in our group, all African women, half of them have no income at all. They live with nothing. And some of those women, they have children. Imagine a mother looking at his children suffering, no food to eat and no money to buy what they want. It's very, how will I say, it's very upsetting and frustrating. So there is no income for women or for children. It's very, very bad, you know. And the destitution, you know, all these destitution, no house to live. Like me, I was homeless for 10 years in this country. I'm sorry, homeless for 10 years with my son. When I born my son, it was really difficult for me to live. You know, when women depend on nothing at all, maybe others to help them, they become very vulnerable, high risk of exploitation, rape, all those abuse. Because myself, I was abused. I was pour hot water. Somebody poured hot water on me, you know, in this country. And in this country, I was raped as well. You see, all those things at times make me very, very angry. And a lot of women are still passing through this terrible situation today about that. And this politics of a government, that the politics government puts in this destitution, put on now because of sorry, of course, I'm so furious, I'm so angry, and I don't want to remember my story at all. You know, this government, his politics of destitution promotes rape, promotes homeless, promotes abuse, and a lot of things, you know, for women and children. Please, if you want to know more about these things we are talking about, you can go to our website. That is it, if you can see. This is our website. Is it? Oh,
That's lovely, Trinity. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, that is it.
Destitution.
So, yeah. Destitution. Yeah. A lot of women are still suffering today. No home to stay. It's really difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Trinity. Okay, last person on this section is Zoe, who's going to just tell us very briefly about what happened to her to answer this issue that asylum seekers are living in luxury. And I can't see Zoe, is she there? Let me just check. Yep, she's there. Zoe, could you speak? You're just on mute at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, go. Good.
Yeah, like they said, bills that says asylum seekers are living in luxury, and they know that's a white lie. Because at the end of the day, me and my children were given £5 to live on a daily basis. So how is that becoming that we're living in luxury and we're living in one room and we share one bed? The three of us are sharing on one bed. What I do every night is that I pick what do they call it? Some of our luggages. I put it at the end of the other or at the other bed so that my son won't fall off the bed. And my daughter sleeps in the middle and I sleep at the other end. Each night I wake up every night to check whether he has not fallen off the bed, because sometimes he fall off the bed and stay at the edge of on top of the luggage where I used to wedge the other side of the bed. So how are we living in luxury? I don't understand. Because we're not living in luxury if we're living on £5 a day, and each of us are sleeping on one bed. They don't have a bed to themselves. We all sleep on one bed. So that's not possible. So I don't see where an asylum seeker is living in luxury. It's not, I've never seen it, not on this platform, maybe somewhere else, but not on this platform, not on not on All African Women's Group. I don't even think there's any asylum seeker somewhere that is living luxury. We're not allowed to work. We're not allowed to do anything. It's draining. When you sit at home, you just go out, pick your children from school, come back, you don't do anything. Sometimes I just wander around the shopping center because I don't have anything to do apart from picking the kids from school. That's my own contribution to this web. If they pass out this bill, it's going to be detriment to the asylum seekers that are coming in to seek an asylum. So we are not living in luxury. We're just living from hand to mouth. Thank you.
Thank you. So also you did win though. They tried to they evicted you, and there was a big campaign to get you back housed. I know the housing is dreadful, but it was a victory that you're no longer on the streets. Oh, you're on mute, babe. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. Just say about the eviction.
Can you hear me?
It's important to people to know that you can win.
They made me homeless. That was in January this year. Was it last year? This year? Yeah, this year. When I told them I fled from Nigeria because of rape and domestic violence, they didn't believe me. They made me homeless. Even when war was saying they were backing me up, they were behind me, they still made me homeless. You know, I was put up with a friend in that same one room. She was staying in one room apartment. We're sleeping on the floor. That was during the heart of the pandemic. We're sleeping on the floor with the thick sofa. What do you call it? What do they call this bed again? Sofa bed. That's what we're sleeping on. Very tiny. My kids would sleep on the sofa bed, and I'll sleep on the floor, just to make them feel comfortable. That was how we were able to manage before the Home Office. Before war, helped me with the help of war. I was able to claim asylum in the Home Office.
Yeah,
so it's very draining. Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
That goes on. Did you want to just say something about just fighting to win before Maddie from Maddie is going to come next, but first of all, Lulu, just to say a couple of things.
Yeah, I just want to say you've had a lot of terrible stories, but just to say we organize together to win our cases and campaigns. And I'm telling you, there is no victory to us that is small. And we collectively work, and we use this self-help guide tool that has helped so many women to understand and to be able to present their cases to the Home Office and find help finally, like you heard from many women before they got to meet All African Women's Group and Legal Action for Women and Women Against Rape and Global Women Against Deportation, amongst others.
Thank you. Thanks, Lulu. Okay, so I'd like to now call on Maddie Wakelin from Manchester's No Borders, who's going to tell us a bit more about the Nationality and Borders Bill and the resistance to it.
Hiya. Yeah, so at No Borders Manchester, since about August, we've been running workshops on the Nationality and Borders Bill in different community spaces across the city, online, and with kind of activist groups all over the country. The main aim of these workshops was to build communities of resistance and begin conversations about how we resist this bill, and share knowledge about the bill, because it's deliberately hard to read, hard to understand what it means and what the implications are. The bill is obviously abhorrent, as everyone else has already touched on. Its aims are quite far-reaching. One of them is to criminalize people seeking safety. They're changing the word entry to arrival, which means that reaching the end of your journey becomes criminalized. So that's kind of quite deliberately targeting people coming on boat crossings from Calais. There's also they've added the possibility of removals whilst processing. So at the moment, if you have a claim in the UK, you obviously can't be removed from the country, but under the new bill, you'll be able to remove, which explicitly kind of makes way for this offshoring. So the processing of people's claims in other countries or in disused oil rigs or ferries. And there's also a division of people seeking safety into group 1 and group 2. This allows for differential treatment on a lot of grounds, and perhaps most relevant to what Zoe was just saying about accommodation, which is already terrible. It allows for a difference in accommodation between these two groups. And it's probably likely that we're going to see an increase in kind of camp-like accommodation and people living with no recourse to public funds, which I know there's a report about, which I think is already in the chat that Crossroads have done. So the bill has passed through Parliament and is in Lords in early January. The death of 27 people in the Channel earlier this month was used as a reason to really push this through and to kind of justify the contents of the bill. And obviously there's a lot in the bill about how they're going to treat boats in the Channel, how they're going to be allowed to U-turn boats, and how Border Force are not going to kind of have any culpability if people die in those rescue missions. I think it's really important to say, I think the link's gone into the chat, that what happened this month with the boat in the Channel was a deliberate non-assistance, and the testimony by 2 survivors from that boat has shown that they called France at about 1 a.m. in the morning to say that the boat was in trouble, water was coming into the boat, people were in the sea. And then they were told to call England because they were in English waters, so they called England. And for a while they had 2 phones on the boat calling France, calling England. And nothing happened. This is at 1 a.m. Sunlight comes up. I think by this point they stopped calling. Most people are in the water. And at about 1 p.m. France launches a rescue mission. So that's 12 hours of people being in the water, of people being in distress before France do anything. And it's really important to note as well that while you can kind of see these similarities of politics from the Mediterranean, these ideas of deliberate non-assistance, of pushbacks, the Channel is a very different piece of water. It is much, much smaller, and it's one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. So it's virtually impossible for there to be a boat on the Channel that England and France don't know about, and certainly not for 12 hours. So yeah, there's a link in the chat if anyone wants kind of further information on that, and I think there's going to be a kind of a push to kind of further evidence that non-assistance. But yeah, thanks.
Maddie, could you just say what stage the Nationality and Borders is at in Parliament?
Yeah, so it's passed through and it's now in Lords, and it's going to be in Lords, I think, at about on like the 6th of January, it's early January. So I think there is going to be hopefully protests in London and opportunities to do letter writing to the Lords, in the hope that maybe we can kind of get some resistance there.
Thanks. So if people want to stay in touch, can you please put your email, send your email to us either via the chat or in any other way. Our contact details will be put in the chat. And also we do also have a template letter to write to MPs. It's not useless writing to MPs, even at this late stage, because there's been a lot of opposition in Parliament. Some people have spoken very strongly against it, and they need to know that people in the community and in their constituents in particular are opposing this bill and supporting them in opposing the bill. So to kind of shore them up and make them stronger in their opposition. And there's been particularly a lot of resistance to the one clause that takes away that gives the government the power to take away people's citizenship, which is really I mean, all of it is horrendous, but that's a very, very frightening clause. And so, please keep an eye out for what's happening with the bill. The link to the template letter, which particularly focuses on the situation of women, is in the chat. And it would be great if you can write to your MP, have a look first of all to find out whether they're somebody that's already spoken against the bill or not, and adapt your letter accordingly. Okay, before we asked a couple of organizations, Maddie's organizations and a couple of others, just to speak because we wanted to make sure that their work was reflected on this meeting. And so the last person is Catherine Cassidy from Abolish Detention in Hassexfield, who did a very big and important campaign against a detention centre there. So Catherine, could I ask you to speak, please?
Thanks very much, Nikki, and thanks for having us to speak just really briefly to you today. So yes, I'm part of a campaign group in the northeast of England, and we're the only group that's organising on abolitionist principles against a new detention centre which is being opened in Medhamsley in rural County Durham. Our members include those with lived experience of immigration detention and the UK's immigration and asylum system, and those who stand in solidarity with them. The Home Office intends for the new centre, which is called Derwentside, to replace Yarlswood as the main IRC for women, holding up to 84 women at a time. We worked over the summer, attending and organising community events to raise awareness, to challenge misinformation being spread by the local Member of Parliament, and to build support for our campaign. Since July, alongside 2 other local campaign groups and a national organisation, we've been organising monthly demonstrations at the site of the centre. This has enabled us to build support across communities locally and to maintain the visibility of opposition to the centre. We've had quite a lot of local press coverage and some national as well. We've also supported a public meeting and a national demonstration just recently in the nearby town of Concert. We've also held our own events. So we had a vigil at the site at the end of November where we read the names and remembered the 58 people who've died in immigration detention since 1989. We had hoped to prevent the opening, but on the 23rd of November, the Home Secretary announced that the centre will open by the end of the year. We have another on-site demonstration which is going to take place this Saturday, and we're continuing to work to put pressure on anyone in the local region who engages the contractor for the site, which is Mighty. So what we have managed to do, of course, is we've built over the last few months a broad-based coalition, abolitionist coalition in the Northeast that wasn't here before, and we're going to continue to fight to have the centre closed down. At the moment, obviously there's only 17 days until the end of the year. We're preparing for the arrival of the first women at the centre, who we believe will be transferred from Yarlswood. We're in contact with the groups at Yarlswood and Colnbrook to try and get information as to when this might happen. We initially thought that would be last Friday, but no one has as yet been transferred to the site. We plan to be on site when the first women arrive to show solidarity and to organise and participate in visiting as soon as possible. Once the centre is occupied, we will continue our demonstrations to make these visible and audible to the women detained there as well, to show solidarity. So please do follow us on social media. I think there should be some links in the chat. And if you have any contacts in the region that could support the on-site demonstrations and the visiting in particular, please put us in touch. We welcome any practical help, support and advice in relation to visiting. As I said, we're currently in touch with groups at Yarlswood and Colnbrook as well as AVID, and we have some contact to SOAS detainee support as well. But we really would appreciate some support. There's 2 email addresses, which hopefully will be in the chat as well, that you can contact us on, just to say that our struggles are your struggles. Until all are free, none are free. And thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, thank you. I hadn't forgotten Maru. I'm sorry, people are panicking thinking I'd forgotten Maru. She is our international guest. Her name is Marumura Villapando, and she is the founder and community organizer with La Resistencia. and has been, similar to what Catherine just described, has been organising against detention as well as on a whole set of other asylum and immigration issues. And we wanted Maru's work to be heard here because it's been a real strength to all of us to hear about your successes, Maru. So if you could please speak now.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Good morning for me. Good afternoon for you all. We're in the Pacific Northwest, in the most northwest corner of the country here in the US. And we worked on ending detention and deportation here in our state, in Washington state, but really across the country and across the world. We're focused on shutting down the detention center here, the Northwest Detention Center. We've done this for 8 years unofficially, but we have been very successful. We passed a law this year that prohibits private prisons and detention centers for adults for profit. Obviously, there's a big push from the private corporation that runs and owns the detention center. There's a lot of lawsuits happening. We also won a lawsuit against also this company, Geo, for not paying the minimum wage to people detained because they use this federal protection that allowed them to have people running, really being the backbone of the detention center for $1 a day only, in some instances, nothing. In this October, the lawsuit was won. And the judge ordered to pay back 17 million back to people that worked in detention from 2014 to 2021. There's another appeal to that as well. And so we also won the fact that now our group is completely run by people formerly detained and their loved ones. I was the only undocumented at some point. And now we have all people that have faced this monster of immigration enforcement now being the leaders of the group. I also won my case this year. This year was full of victories, which felt really good. The Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency tried to deport me because of the work I do. And also this October, we won the case against them. We actually pushed them to end the case instead of going to court and having the judge deciding on my fate. We actually pushed them to decide to end by themselves the process, which is really important. That is here called prosecutorial discretion, the same power that immigration has to start a process, a deportation proceeding or detain someone. They also have the power to end it altogether. So right now we're doing a campaign to push for prosecutorial discretion. And we have our campaign going on. We would like to have a lot of signatures, please. This is for one of our leaders in detention, Israel. And you know, one of the problems that we have is that we want to shut down the detention center, but in the meantime, it's still open. And the problem is that with winning the $1 a day, now the company ended the program altogether, and now more people, they really use the dollar. I mean, it's nothing, but it's something, right? And now we have a lot of people requesting donations. We send whatever donations we get, we send them to people detained. And now we're running out of funds. We don't have enough money. So we're also doing a fundraising campaign. So you can find everything on our social media and on our website. And you know, if you can help us get signatures for Israel, because it's one example of how the system is all set up internationally, right? It's to push us to migrate. It's creating the conditions for us to live. It's creating the conditions to make the routes unsafe, dangerous, right? They also create the conditions to make it impossible for us to regularize our status once we make it. And then they create the conditions to push us out again, right? And in the process of all this, they make money out of us and our misery. So we want to end the system altogether. We're all volunteer run like you all. And so we do need support. And just a preview before I end. In March, we're gonna do the 8th anniversary of the largest hunger strike here in the detention center. And we would like for you all to participate with us. This will be sometime in March, we will let you know. But we wanna create a big fuss at international level to say we are winning, yes, but we need to do everything we can to completely undo the system so people can remain where they're at safe, but they also can have the option to not even have to migrate in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Maru, and lovely to have you on the call, and congratulations for winning your status as well. I've just looked to see in terms of what questions are coming in. There's a couple of things that I'd like to ask people to speak. I wonder if Flora would be able to add something on the reasons that women are having to flee. But first of all, could I take Trinity, who has her hand up and wanted to add something?
What I want to add to what I said before, you know, when they said that we are living in a luxurious something house or living very well, you know, when they put me in the house, this house is when you share with other people, you know what I mean? You share house with other people, that is not a problem anyway. But the problem is that the room they gave to me was just a bus room. Well, just a bus room. There's no chair, there's no table, nothing. No, for years, I and my son, yes, on the floor, eating on the floor. Nothing. We were eating on the floor. I have to put paper on the floor and put the food there, and we eat together. If like one of my friend called me yesterday and he said that, Trinity, I said, okay. He said, do you know that I'm still living in prison? I said, did they arrest you? He said, no. He said, but where they gave to me, there's no window, you know, nothing at all. She can't even see outside. She's still living in prison. And she's depressed because this, my friend, she was arrested 6 times. For detention, 6 times in a detention. But she has won her case now, but she's still living as if that she's in the prison yard. She's still living in, you know, in a prison. She called me yesterday. So when she was crying and she was telling me, you see how difficult it is because this law they are going to put, is going to be more difficult for people. You know, if I can stay more than close to 20 years this month before I got my status, it's very difficult for other people that are coming. How are they going to survive it? How are they going to live? It's going to be very difficult. I think we are going to stand up and say no to these bills and just fight on. That is what I mean, because if a friend can cry to me now and say, I'm still living as a prisoner, whereas she's not actually in the prison, but where they put her is like a prison. You see what I mean? So it's really difficult for both asylum and refugee people. It's not only asylum.
Okay, so thank you, Trinity, important. Flora, if you wouldn't mind commenting on the reasons women have to flee. I wondered if somebody could also speak about the victory in Ireland. I don't know, Sarah, if you're able to do that. I think we have somebody from Support Not Separation on the call, and it would be good if you could address the issue of children of asylum seekers. And then I've got a couple of other hands, Amy and Eva. So
yeah, do you want me to?
Yeah, Flora, you go ahead first, please, and then Ireland.
Yeah, I think most of us here, a lot of people around inside UK will be asking, why do women have to come here? Why do women have to claim asylum, have to make those dangerous journeys throughout the icy water, cold icy water? But I want to come in to say that women have the right to be here. Because if you look at in our group, a lot of women are mostly rape survivors. They come from war-torn countries like Congo, Rwanda, you know, Burundi. Millions of women and girls have suffered rape and other brutalities. You see, this government knows it, and the politician knows very well, and some celebrities have actually condemned some of the awful things, rape and brutalities that are happening. But you know, when women claim asylum and talk about their rape and brutality, they say that it happens in your country and it's normal. But it's a lie, because If you look, why a lot of people coming is because their countries have been devastated by wars, constant war. I'm talking now, half of Nigeria has war, and this group have taken up armed weapons. I used to ask myself, Cameroon, half of English-speaking Cameroon have weapons to defend themselves. And I asked myself, where do the weapons come from? How do they get into these hands of the people? It's the Western government that produces these weapons. And so much wealth has been stolen as well from Africa and never acknowledged at all. And since the time of slavery, the colonial era, when the land and the precious resources, which is our people, were stolen away. And, the UK keep foiling wars abroad. And, as women that come here, they have a right, because a rape situation in UK is taken very seriously. Why would the rape be different? Why is it discriminatory, treating other women, claiming rape be treated differently or not even listened to? And women are disbelieved, when they speak out. And the Home Office sometimes tend them to, to detain them. And some of us have suffered that so much. And the nationality bill, that is coming out, I strongly oppose, because this bill will mean that somebody like myself, I was in detention for a year, and I fought so hard. Some of us became jailhouse lawyers. We were given 5 flight tickets to be jammed into the plane, and we fought so hard. And my case, we won a case with All African Women's Group, supported by WAR and other groups in the center, where we had to put, we won a law of vulnerable witness, meaning that women who would not be able to speak about rape, and other brutality, we are given the chance. There was a law that supported women, that we are given the chance for people to listen to them, for the courts to listen to them. The new nationality bill means that is totally scrapped out. So if people like me won my case because I was given that opportunity, then we think of what is going to happen. It is a means of bringing the fast track system again, in order to make sure that lawyers do not do their work, make sure that legal aid is caught, make sure that people who are reporting are detained immediately, and people who are helping in, like those people who smuggle people, and a lot of people like Jane has spoken, and other groups that are helping. Actually, the government want to employ you people to do their dirty job. And I think it is time for us to wake up, to fight, to say no to detention center, no to destitution, no. Let us know that as this thing is coming through the asylum seekers, it will come through to everybody. And we are here because they are still in our countries. The big corporation has taken over our countries, taken over our resources. They are mining continuously in Congo as we speak, and they are shipping in natural resources every day. And they are making sure that villages are fighting against each other. And these people cannot live in peace in their country, so they have to flee. So I'm here to tell each and everybody that they are here because women, we are here because the government and its corporation are still in their country, in our countries, occupying, making sure people are homeless, making sure people do not sleep because of war that is going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flora. Wow. Covered a lot of things that we all really needed said. So thank you. And just to reiterate, we are all in it together, because we do know that what they get away with against asylum seekers can be extended to everyone, as we've seen with the Nationality and Borders Bill, where they're now talking about taking away citizenship from a whole set of people. Okay, I've got somebody's hand up, Amy, and then I'd like to go to Ireland, and then I'm hoping somebody from Support Not Separation is going to speak. Amy, go ahead.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to thank you all. It's been very interesting and sad listening to it all. My question is a bit of a weird one. As a British citizen who's lived in the UK all my life, what can I do aside from campaigning and things like that? What can I do to physically help refugees that have made it into the UK? I mean, I have a spare bedroom. Can I, I think my question is, as an individual UK citizen, do I have any legal opportunity to sponsor somebody who's coming through the process? Offer them somewhere to live so that at least they've got somewhere they can, they've got a contact here. I don't know how that works.
I don't know if people could put their hand up if they would like to answer that. I do know that there are schemes where you can actually help out with housing. There's one in Brighton called 1,000 for 1,000, which is run by a good friend of ours, Jacob, and there may be others. There's the work that Jane and others are doing, which is to try to ensure that people who arrive here are greeted with some kind of kindness and compassion and not brutality. And then but in terms of going forward, it would be great for us to be in touch with you, because there's loads of stuff that we're doing on a day-to-day basis as an organization, as a coalition really, of women's organizations that are fighting on different fronts. I'm from Legal Action for Women, which does a lot of legal work. The All Africa Women's Group is a group of women asylum seekers and refugees. And then there's Women Against Rape and Women of Colour in the Global Women's Strike. So there's a lot going on at our Women's Centre, which we would love to discuss more with you. Okay, so did anybody else want to say anything about what can be done? Let me just check if I've got any hands up here. No, could I go to Sarah? Could you say about the important victory in Ireland? Because I think people should know about that, because it really does show what's possible. You're on mute, Sarah. Thank you.
Yes, just recently, Ireland is opening his scheme to regularize undocumented people. And
you went on mute, Sarah, again. Something happened and you just tipped over and went on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, Ireland has very recently launched a scheme. It's opening a scheme to regularize undocumented people. And it's obviously we want more, and this is not enough, but it's a huge step forward. And it's really a sea change for all of us. It's supposed to open in January. People can apply online. If you've been in the country, there's a 6 months window to apply. It's for people who've been in the country for 4 years or 3 years if you have children. We obviously want to be directly in touch with the people campaigning for it. There were a group called Justice for the Undocumented. They were mostly women, mostly carers, mostly mothers, as we know, and they led the campaign to win this. And we said, when we read it, we said, look, Ireland is going ahead. Why not here? We need it here. We need it now.
Thank you, Sarah. Exactly there, then why not here? Somebody's asked about whether the recording is going to be available, and it will be. We might edit out a few little bits, but yes, the recording will be available. I don't know if somebody from Support Not Separation could just say a bit about your work and how it overlaps with the work done by women asylum seekers about. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, Nick. Yes, I'm ready to say something. Well, first of all, the All Africa Women's Group and the Global Women Against Deportation have also been part of the Support Not Separation Coalition. And in fact, many of the women who spoke today have been on our monthly tickets of the family court very consistently over the past few years. And that's because children, tens of thousands, about 80,000 children in care at the moment, and they are predicting that in a couple of years it will be 100,000. And these are not children that are being abused. Some of them may be, but the great majority are children that are being taken from their mothers because they're single mothers on low income, because they are women who are asylum seekers, for example. One of the women that we fought with and both her children were up for adoption. Well, the first one, which we prevented, and then when she had the second one, he was going to be adopted at birth. They had the police and social services outside the hospital when she was in the maternity ward. And basically what they were using against her was the fact that while she was waiting for her asylum application, she had lied to the immigration authorities. And they used that to say that she wasn't bonding properly with her child, and a whole set of lies to have the first child removed. And then if you have one removed, they automatically, if you get pregnant again, assume they're going to take the second one. And children are being put up for adoption against the wishes of the mother, which is, you know, they talk a lot about what's going on in Ireland and over the years in many countries, but it's going on right now. It's going on right now. And I know there's been a number of cases that people have been involved in. And it's something that we should highlight in terms of what asylum seekers and immigrant women are up against. And with the death of the little Arthur, who was killed by his father and the stepmother recently, they're clearly planning to take more children into care. That is their response, is to up it. And so the most vulnerable of us, obviously, if we're asylum seekers or we're immigrants or we're waiting for our cases to be processed and we're destitute, all these are reasons that they can use to take our children. And I know the All Africa Women's Group in particular has done so much about highlighting the separation of having to leave and leave your children behind, because that was the only way that you could try to escape and protect your children. And it's you know, it's such a heartbreaking, really major issue, you know, that I wanted to highlight. So we have monthly pickets, and you can be in touch with us through GWAD and through the All African Women's Group. Thank you very much for everybody who spoke.
Thank you very much, Nina. I hope somebody will put in the chat that thank you very much, the connection to the contact details for the picket. I just want to add that the issue of family reunion, as Nina raised, is a massive issue, and the disparaging of mothers and the way that the bond between mothers and children is just dismissed and you know, belittled, really has a big part to play in the whole problem of women being reunited with their children. And the Alima, who spoke earlier on behalf of her friend, that child was refused permission to join his mother in the UK, even though the rest of the family were here by then, because she had one family reunion for her two younger children, and he was refused because he was just a little bit over 18. And it really shows how they have no respect or acknowledgement of those kind of bonds between families. And it's really a, you know, a standard that, again, is being seen in asylum, but is also being spread elsewhere. Winvisible has commented about some of the work that they do in relation in anti-deportations. That's a women with disabilities group, also based at the Women's Centre. And I'm just going to check if we had another. Yes, I think people have put links into the chat about where the recording or how to be in touch. If you could make sure that you leave your contact details to be sent the recording when it's available. And people have posted a few things in the chat about other places, other organizations that are doing that kind of support work for asylum seekers and refugees, which is very helpful. It's good to have that kind of list. If you would like to stay in touch, please send us your email, and we can let you know, you know, about future events in the new year and about the work that we're doing ongoingly. I'm just checking if there's any other questions. No, lots of people thanking various people, which is lovely, very helpful and supportive and encouraging comments. Okay, so, can I just go back? Can I just ask if Daphne's ready to just finish what she had to say? Because even though what she went through was really horrendous, it did end in a victory. And I think it would be good if people could hear that, Daphne. Are you okay to do that? And let me just check if there's anyone else that was still waiting to speak. Do we still have Daphne on? I can see some of our friends on here as well.
I can't see her. I can't see.
Okay, she may have had to leave. Okay, fine. I think that one of the women from Women Against Rape is on and is actually having an event tomorrow. I don't know if you would like to post the information about that in the chat, Lisa, or to just briefly announce it as we're winding up here. And okay, all right, I think we're actually kind of coming to an end then. Can I just check with Sian? There's no other questions that you've seen, Sian, that I've missed. If there is, if you could please just say. And Maru is thanking people. Thank you very much, Maru. It's really fantastic to have you on, and we definitely intend to work more closely together in the future. And okay, I think there's a lot of good information in the chat, which we will definitely be saving. And so I think I'm going to wind it up.
Nikki?
And we'll just,
Hello,
yes.
Nikki.
Go ahead, Sue.
Could I just, would it be okay? I just wanted to underline Flora's point. I was so glad for what she said about the, how much has been stolen from Africa and the global South, because that is like, in a way, that's the backdrop and the groundwork of everything we're doing, that people have every right to be here because we've paid over generations. And I just wanted to say, point out that I wanted to highlight Maddie's point, that I was just, it's just sickening. It's like, that people are being left to die. It's really, this is their plan. They're wrecking people's lives, and also they're separating families because many people have families here. And they want to, this bill will strip citizenship from people. And we already saw that with the Windrush, the Windrush generation who had the right to be here were then told they had no right to be here. They lost jobs, homes, they were detained, deported, some died. And now they're having to fight, they're still fighting for compensation. The compensation scheme has been a joke, a bad joke by the Home Office. I just wanted to underline that Hastings, I thought the report from Hastings was very heartening. And also I watched the film by the RNLI, the Lifeboat Savers. And one of the men, a father, said that he had saved some children, women and children and men from, and he said now every time he sees his daughter, he thinks of the people in the boats. And you feel like that's the kind of caring humanity that's needed. And these are white working class people who are often pitted against us. But in fact, they get it and are really sticking to their guns and saving lives. So that's the kind of caring that we need. And also just that we just have a right to be here. The people in the boats are us and we're them. We would do the same things if we were in those situations. And I suppose I just wanted to mention that COP26, people, now the environment is at the forefront. And it's quite clear that people are fleeing from all kinds of devastation, which is caused by multinational governments and corporations. And people are coming here to save their lives. So I think the meeting has been great and so informative, all the speakers. And I'm very glad to have been part of it.
Thank you, Sarah. Lovely note to finish on. I just like, somebody just raised about mentioning that there has actually been a lot of opposition to this bill. Including from the Labour Party in Parliament. A lot of people did speak very forcefully against it, but more needs to be done. They absolutely have to stop this bill going through, and yes, they need to hear from us in order to be strengthened in that effort. So please do use the template letter, write to your MP, look up your MP first of all, see if they've spoken against the bill or if they haven't, and if they haven't, give them a blast. And if they have, thank them and tell them that you agree with them, because they need to know that there's a lot of public opposition to this bill, especially considering the amount of witch hunting of immigrants that have been in the papers. So, Felicity, would you like to just quickly, before we close and thank people, Felicity, would you like to just comment? We can't hear you, Felicity. We can see you speaking, but we can't hear you.
Yes.
That's it.
So glad I could attend. And so much has been said, and so many organizations I'm going to try and reach. And your work is amazing. And I do think that the people who suffer, about why are we in these, called to be in the special houses, why are we? everything is propaganda used against you and us immigrants, I'm another one, who are here, and it's a way of keeping the English nationalism going and so on. This country is going very, very strongly in the wrong direction. And I think we all have to fight. And I'm thinking of particularly the RNLI, who are wanting a lot of support. What are they going to do when their actions are illegal? So I think there's a lot of terrible consequences to this, and we must unite with everybody, both refugees and so on. And I support you, all of you, for what you've done and what you're doing. And I hope I can participate more.
Well, we definitely have that in mind, Felicity, to call on you.
That was my work.
We rely on your support. Just on the RNLI, they have actually said that they're not going to stop saving people at sea, which I think is really admirable. And people are, I think, probably looking to challenge the bill on the grounds that it does breach refugee law and maritime law, and the whole thing about pushing back boats. So we have to, again, I think that things like that really also do depend on how much visible community opposition there is to it, so that people feel emboldened to stand up where they particularly are and oppose these really horrible, cruel, draconian measures. So before we, and also just to say, Felicity, on the thing that James spoke about from Hastings is very striking, because what got reported first of all in the press about Hastings was that right-wing people were lining up on the beach to stop the RNLI launching their boats to go and save people. And what then happened was that there was a real groundswell of community support to say, no, we welcome refugees. And I think Hastings is an example of what's going on throughout the country, in fact, which is that especially after the deaths of 27 people in the Channel, which I know is, you know, many more have died in the Mediterranean in the backs of lorries and various other ways, but those deaths in particular did prompt a real groundswell of support and people really feeling like they had to speak out. So it's true that you often feel battered by the kind of right-wing news and the right-wing and racist press, but there's a lot of opposition underneath that that does come to the surface at important times. Okay, so I'm just going to hand over to Lou just to thank people and say goodbye.
Oh, first of all, is to thank you all, the speakers and the attendees, for this amazing afternoon event. And like Sarah said, I'm gonna just say the fight of the people coming with the boats. We see ourselves as mothers and our children and fleeing for safety. And it's really painful when you see the information from Priti Patel and her battalion saying how men are elbowing women. And we are going to continue the campaign, and we ask you to do your bit, and we look forward to meeting again. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.